But he was starting to feel like he was getting the hang of this. There was a way through to victory. He could feel it. He just had to keep running the Path of Destinies. With that, the book fluttered back to the beginning, and he fell into it.
So, beim letzten Mal wurden wir wieder mal ermordet.
It was time to choose. The rebellion was in trouble. Ravens were scouting for the secret rebel base. They needed a game changer. Pieces of the Sky Ripper had surfaced. Or so a scholar in the mountains had told him. Surely the weapon that banished the lost gods could defeat the Emperor. Also, a temple had risen out of empty desert. The Iblis stone was hidden there. It was a dangerous artifact. It could corrupt its user into a bloodthirsty monster. Maybe he could find a way to use it, to take its power without surrendering to its wickedness. And also, his old friend Lupino needed rescuing. Of course, Reynardo had a pretty strong suspicion that Lupino had betrayed the rebellion. But could Reynardo really leave an old friend to the Ravens?
So, also. Der Sky Ripper zerstört die Welt. Das Teil hier zerstört die Welt fast auch. Wir fangen nochmal mit dem Sky Ripper an.
Every child knew about the Sky Ripper. The transcendent emperor had buried its pieces. What could have brought them to light? This emperor, Isengrim III, had once been kind, but he'd gone mad. And now he was conducting secret, obscene rituals to bring back the lost gods. Had he, somehow, summoned the long-lost components of the legendary weapon out of the deep places of the earth? It was more than Reynardo could fathom. But if he could find a legendary weapon, he would use it. As he set foot on the island, Reynardo couldn't help feeling a bit curious. Was Lupino still waiting to be rescued? No. He was probably drinking champagne with the ravens. Did ravens drink champagne? Did rabbits? Reynardo felt oddly thirsty, come to think of it. Why had he chosen the Sky Ripper? Reynardo never made plans that required constant vigilance. He was a hero. He didn't think too much. He just went with his gut and hoped it all worked out. The Sky Ripper was a long shot. He'd have to devote himself to it. No side journeys, no rescuing old friends. That was against his nature. Could he stick with it? Ooh, Reynardo loved to improve his gear.
So, jetzt muss ich mal überlegen, welchen Pfad wir gehen. Also, wir holen uns erst einmal das Gehäuse vom Sky Ripper. Und dann schauen wir mal, in welche Richtung das Ganze noch abdriften kann. So. Jetzt können wir auch die Lernklinge da bauen. Vielleicht ist die ja auch der Schlüssel für das alles hier. Aber sehen wir mal. So, was macht denn dieses Schwert da hier eigentlich? Also, dass es uns Türen öffnet.
I wonder what happens if I go that way. Reynardo was running out of choices. Zenobia's love brought him only sorrow. His best friend was his enemy. And the Iblis stone... Ooh, he shuddered. Best not to think about it. All that was left was the Sky Ripper. A weapon powered by a god's eye. So be it, then.
Also der möchte ja auch den Skyriver haben, so wie es ausschaut. Das heißt, eigentlich ist es ja schon sinnig, dass wir den versuchen zu holen.
There was an engraving. Maximum capacity, 130 people.
Ohne das Gefäß kann der Imperator ja die beiden Teile nicht zusammenbauen.
His sword food teacher used to say power gems were cheating. Stupid old fart.
Achso, da geht's gar nicht weiter. Okay. So, da können wir... Ah, noch mehr? Ah, da hinten.
Once, he found a Superman issue #1 in mint condition in a jar he'd broken. He planned to keep breaking things until he had the whole series.
So, wir können ja jetzt eigentlich überall weiter. Geradeaus, Mitte oder... Also, Mitte, links oder rechts. So, das war knapp. Das war auch knapp. Ah, halt! Eieiei. Ja, wurde zu gierig. Ich lern's aber auch nie. Lern's nie. Doch wieder das Heilschwert. Schön kommt er wie die Lämmer auf die Schlachtbank.
Well,
Licht aus.
the eyes have had it. Puzzle. Reynardo loved puzzles, except when he couldn't figure them out. On the other hand, if there was a puzzle, it was probably meant to keep people away from something good.
So, jetzt machen wir erstmal das Tor hier auf. Weil ich glaube, hier war ja noch eine Kiste. Oh.
blood on this one, so it hadn't saved its owner.
So, wie war das noch gleich? Mal schauen. Das war ja vorhin eher... Wow, alles ist auf dem ersten Versuch klar.
This is why heroes are called dashing, Reynardo thought. See? Dashing? Get it?
Ja, da kann ich nichts machen. Oh, da ist das Skyripper, beziehungsweise das Gehäuse.
Skyripper's armature. The stuff that dreams are made of. Engineers' dreams, anyway. The device was intricate. No one alive had the skill to make a thing like it. How was it part of a weapon at all? He'd have to ask a scientist, but first, he'd get the second piece. Skyripper had a heart, a core that had come to rest on the next island. Well, there was another island he could reach. Zenobia had just invaded it with her father's Raven battalions. She must be encamped there still. But fighting Zenobia now, that made no sense at all. He'd already sacrificed one friend to get this armature, was it? He didn't need to hurry to face her. She would find him.
So, und jetzt besuchen wir mal Zenobia.
Reynardo asked himself why he changed course to confront Zenobia. He'd no idea. Sometimes he would just do things, and he could never figure out why he'd done them. Usually, they worked out. After all, he was a hero. The truth is, though, he wanted to see her, wasn't it? It had been a dozen years since Swordfu School. He'd followed every rumor about her, every scrap of news. Not that he still loved her. After all, she was his enemy. No, it was solely because, know your enemy. All right, maybe he should stop pretending. He knew exactly how she felt about him. But their love affair always ended with a tragic death. Unless, maybe he could find a way to dodge tragedy. Surely he could, couldn't he?
Ja, ich würde sagen, wir finden da schon irgendeinen Weg.
Barely landed a claw on him.
Hä? Wie ist da? Unbesiegbare war's oder was?
The city was burning, and there was no one to put out the fires. If somehow Zenobia survived her father and inherited his crown, what sort of empire would she be heir to? But he couldn't think about that, could he? Tired of doing that, thought Reynardo.
Nein, das reicht nicht fürs Level Up.
You couldn't hack this kind of firewall. You had to warm it up to you.
Ups, wie komme ich denn da jetzt rüber? Achso. Natürlich. Okay.
If they didn't want their things broken, they really ought to make them stronger.
Das war definitiv mal der klügste Satz, den er hat verlautbaren können. So, ja, auch noch Kiste. Kanalisation. Mal schauen. Treffen wir Ratten.
Sleep tight, Held Reynardo. Reynardo wasn't entirely sure how he was going to capture Zenobia. She'd be expecting him. And he didn't have Lapino to cook up a clever plan. Why was it again that he hadn't got the core?
Ach so. Nee, das lasse ich mal so wie es ist. Aber wir gehen jetzt mal durch dieses Lerntor
The
da.
mysterious sword from the east made you so fast you could catch a fly with your chopsticks. If that's what you really wanted. Gem of power. Ooh, you didn't find those every day.
Energie bei Sieg. Oh, das klingt auch nicht so schlecht.
Hey.
Was?
Hey, I'm a firefox, thought Reynardo.
Wow. Ernsthaft jetzt da. Ernsthaft jetzt da. So. Durch Gegner dashen. Wo ist durch Gegner dashen? Da. So, das sind wir wieder.
Reynardo slinked through Zenobia's ship, making no sound at all. Where were her guards? Finally, he reached her bedroom. She was curled up on her bed. Oh, he'd forgotten how beautiful she was. How sleek. How soft. He tapped her on the shoulder with his sword. She vanished. And he suddenly noticed he couldn't move except his mouth. In fact, soon he couldn't keep his mouth shut. He told Zenobia everything. Skyripper, the Iblistone, even where the secret rebel base was, until he was
Ups,
hoarse.
war schon wieder eine falsche Entscheidung, glaube
Some
ich.
kind of truth spell. A talky truth spell. She called her father by Farspeaker Toad and filled His Majesty in. But why didn't he get the core? Croaked the Farspeaker in something like His Majesty's croak. Because I missed you, darling. Reynardo grinned. He doesn't even know why, frowned Zenobia. That makes no sense. It's a trap, shouted the Emperor. I'll meet you at the outpost, and I'll bring my interrogators. If Reynardo came face to face with the Emperor, maybe he could assassinate him. But maybe it would be smarter and safer to turn Zenobia against her father.